on a few here for the workshop, and then we'll get going. Put out a first. So is it so messed up? I tried turning off my head. Hello. Is that better? Is that still messy? Hey, okay. I'm gonna put this one on Apple's Beats Wireless Pro, whatever it is. It could be fun, but we'll do this. Not to throw my headphones under the bus, but that was literally the issue, so I will. Okay, so people are saying they want it back. I don't know. We will, as I said earlier, when I assume no one could hear me, give folks a few minutes to trickle in, and then we will get going. Yeah, I'm thinking about the AirPods Max. I'm thinking about it. They seem prone to falling out, at least less so than these. Electric Hamstar. What is my favorite type of shark? I would have to say a I don't even know how to pronounce it. Blahaya. I'm also partial to whale sharks. I like whale sharks. For the check-in, you should be able to go right there. Okay, here's what I want. So this workshop is on GitHub. If you have never used GitHub before and never heard of GitHub, comment just like a 0 for me. Just comment 0. If you have heard of GitHub and maybe played around with it, maybe used it a little bit, give me a 1. And if you are like a GitHub pro and you like do this for work and you're just, crazy amounts of Git power, give me a 2. 0, 1, and 2. Okay, we got a lot of 1s, a lot of 0s, 1.5, a 0.9. This is good. Okay, cool. I'll put it out there that if you are a 2, if you have extensively used Git, this is probably going to be a bit of a review. I really like this workshop because I feel like Git, at least for me, was a thing that one day I realized I was supposed to have already learned. And so I looked up, a few commands and used those. And it's kind of the at this point, I'm too afraid to ask thing. And in this workshop, we're going to ask. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to hopefully give a little bit more basis to Git so you can maybe understand it in context a little bit. If you're a 2, I see a 2.001, better than a pro. This is maybe not going to teach you new things, but will be a good review. If you're a 1, this is perfect for you. And if you are, we're saying 0 if you've never used Git before, 1 if you've heard of Git, maybe used a little bit, and then 2 if you're a Git pro. I don't know what kind of a ranking system that is, but it works. If you're a 0, this will also be totally applicable for you, but you may have to pay close attention to keep up. Yes, this is a workshop for folks that know at least nothing about Git, or very little. All right, without further ado, I will give myself an actual intro and start sharing my screen. I am currently functioning off one monitor, which is very sad for me. But all that means for you is that you're going to see me juggling windows around as I'm sharing my screen. So if that bothers you, I would leave, because that's what we're doing. So we are going to boom. Sweet. So welcome to How to Collaborate with GitHub. If you would like, you can spew this over social media with hashtag MLH localhost and at MLHacks. My name is Will Liffert. You can find me on the internet at W Liffert. I am super excited to be leading this workshop today, and I hope I can help you learn something new. Full-time, I work as a software engineer at Google. I work on Google Cloud there. At the end, I'm happy to do a bit of a Q&A if people want to talk about that. And one fun fact about me is that my favorite programming language is Python. I think it's really great. And if you love Python, give me a little snake emoji in the chat. If you are unfamiliar, Major League Hacking is the global hacker community, and it is our mission to empower hackers. If you have not checked in for this workshop already, you should do so. I believe you can check in at this link, but I also dropped the link in the comments, so you can do that as well, and that will get you exactly to the right thing. In fact, I think this is not the link you want, but I'm sure Jack will let you know in the comments. So the roadmap for today is diving into Git. First, we're going to look at the basics of Git and GitHub. We're going to go through a basic GitHub workflow, doing kind of the complete life cycle of things you do with Git. And then at the end, we will kind of do a deeper dive into command line usage of Git, if you want to use this in the terminal, which is when I'm using Git, how I use it. This is our project that we will be hacking on here. You can go to this link, and this is like the, I don't know, do I break presenting and copy this and post it? I think I do, even though I'm sure by the time that I get back to the comments, someone else will have already posted it. Oh, no one did. Hey, Snake. Okay, there we go. Yes, all my Pythonistas. Big fan. So this is the project that we'll be kind of playing with today. It basically just has a list of all the hometowns of people who have done this project, and it updates kind of more or less in real time once you check in code, which if you don't know what checking in code is, we'll talk about that later. Normally when I do this workshop, I try to in real time approve everybody's submission, but because we have such a large group, I am going to approve everyone's submissions after. I might do one or two, and then I will do everyone else's after this finishes up. So don't worry, you will be able to contribute to the project, but it might not happen in real time because I am one person. So the kind of overall workflow for us interacting with this project is that we're all going to make accounts on GitHub. We are going to fork the repo that contains the code for that project that you just looked at. Everyone's going to add their own hometown and make a pull request, which we'll talk about more. We'll all be able to comment on someone else's pull request, and then I will, after the fact, approve and merge everybody's pull requests. And then you can refresh the main website once I've done that, which might be after the workshop, and you'll be able to see your hometown being added in real time. And one thing that you can say after this is all said and done is that this is an open source project. So after you do this, you will be an open source developer because you have contributed to an open source project, which is, technically not a lie and a cool thing to say. So now that we've kind of gone through over the little workflow there that we'll do, let's kind of dive in and get started. So table of contents here, we're going to doing the introduction to Git and GitHub. We'll go over the workflow. We will dive into the command line. Then we'll do a little bit of a review and look at some next steps. And if you stick around, I will play some soothing kalimba tunes for you, which is something that I would recommend you stick around for because it's fun. So diving in, we're all going to collaborate on a project together. How are we going to do that? The answer is version control. There is a slight distinction between Git and GitHub. Well, not a slight distinction. They're different things. Git is a version control system, and it is a program that runs on your computer, right? Just like, I don't know, iTunes or Chrome is a program that runs on your computer, Git is also a program that runs on your computer. It can be used with other tools or locally on your computer to help you keep track of changes in your projects. One way of thinking about it is like Google Docs for code, but better in a ton of ways. And we'll dive into exactly what that looks like a little bit later. Oh, I really should turn off my notifications, but y'all saw a text from my dad. He's really into fishing right now. He's a cool guy. On the other hand, so that's Git. On the other hand, GitHub is a platform for code collaboration. It is actually a website that is currently owned by Microsoft that allows you to use GitHub basically on their servers. And it gives you a really schmancy UI to interact with it. So to recap, Git is an actual program that can run on your computer or a server. And GitHub is a website and a platform that you can go to use Git. But so what is the motivation for version control? There are a lot of things that we might do in kind of without version control in kind of a haphazard way. Something that version control gives us is the ability to search for different changes in our code instead of like renaming a file for each version. I know a thing that I would do before I learned to use Git was if I was working on a lab, I would have like lab.py, and then I'd have like lab.py or lab1.py, and then lab2.py, and then lab3.py, and then labfinal.py, or something like that. And then if I changed something, I'd have to manually make sure the most recent version had all the stuff that I wanted it to have. GitHub or Git makes that a lot easier. The other big thing that Git gives you is the ability to work in parallel and then merge different people's work in together. So if I have a copy of all of the files and you have a copy of all of the files and you send me those files, if we're not using Git, I have to like go and look and see, okay, what did you change? What did I change? And it's just it's a really messy process. So without further ado, we are going to jump into making an account on Git or on GitHub. There are two links that I'll post. One is if you are a student, you can get access to the GitHub Education Pack, which has a lot of fun extra goodies in it. And the second one is if you are no longer a student or not a student or never were a student, then you can use this link, which will get you access to GitHub. It just won't give you some of those extra goodies, but it's still solid. Yes, GitHub is better than Google Docs. I don't know if I should be saying that. I work for Google. If I attend this workshop later, would you accept my pull request? Yes. After this, I will go through and work through everybody's pull requests and make sure everybody gets added. Any other questions? Can I retroactively use Education One? That's a good question. I say try it out and let us know how it goes. I think if you're not a student right now, you're supposed to use the other one, but see what happens. Awesome. So once you go to that link, and I will hop in. I'll be jumping between my actual GitHub and the slides for this. But once you create an account on GitHub, you will see a UI that looks a little like, not like this. Let me actually go to the. Okay, yes, you'll see a UI that looks something like this. It's very responsive. So if I give it half the screen, it looks a little smushed. You'll see a UI that looks like this. There are a number of things you'll see kind of up at the top. In fact, let me shrink this so we can still look at it. You will see a section here for pull requests. A pull request, we mentioned this earlier, but a pull request is a way that after you have made changes to somebody else's code, you can submit a pull request and say, hey, do you like these changes I made? If so, why don't you make them part of your code base permanently? That's what a pull request is, and you can see all your pull requests there. Another kind of key feature that GitHub has that's in the top bar here is issues. Issues serve a lot of different functions, and I'll click over to mine. Am I logged in? Oh, right. This is my like play MLH GitHub account. issues can fulfill a lot of different roles. You can have someone file an issue if there is a bug. You can also use issues as like to-dos, right? If there's a new feature you want to build, you can file an issue for it, and that tracks all of your work on it. Issues are great and they're really versatile. One great way to use issues is if there's an open source project that you benefit from, that you use, then you can go onto their GitHub, and if something isn't working for you, an issue is a great way to kind of file a bug report. Next up, we have this little plus sign here that gives us lots of different options for creating repositories, basically creating a new project. And then over here, we can click on an avatar and open the settings menu. All right, now I'm going to throw this link out that will actually take you to the GitHub repository of that project. And I'll check back in with comments. Show one thing at a time, please. Okay, yes, this is good. This is good feedback. As I said, the one big piece of grace I'll ask for is because I have one monitor, I'm juggling screens, but I will try to keep one screen full sized for at least some time. No, I don't have night mode enabled on my. I have an MLH like test account for GitHub because when I do things like this, I don't need to show you all the issues that I haven't gotten to. I don't need to show you my backlog. You don't want to see that. Let's see. Student wants verification-y stuff. Okay, yeah. So it's totally fine to just go and make a normal GitHub account. If you are a student, you can get the student developer pack after the fact. So right now, I would say if you're not a student, or even if you are and you don't want to deal with verification, you can just create a normal GitHub account. Also, here's a question that I always like to ask. Am I talking too fast? Because I often find that I am. Let me know in the comments if I need to slow down. Otherwise, I will keep going at this speed. And I will try to keep screens full, each window full screened. So we are hopping over to the GitHub repository that we will be playing around with today. And there are lots of cool things that we can check out on it. I will jump between slides and GitHub just so that when I'm on something, it is full screened. So the first and kind of the meatiest section of a GitHub repository is the code itself. You get this view that is basically like a little file explorer. You see different directories here, and then you see actual files. And if you want to, you can click on those files and actually see their contents. So this is super nice. You can jump back to the top code thing. One fun fact that I actually was like never directly told about GitHub repositories is that if you put a file that's called readme.md, MD stands for Markdown, in the top level directory of your GitHub repository, GitHub does this really cool thing where it renders it for you. So we can jump into the README and we see all this text that's already pretty nicely rendered. But because that's in our top level directory, we get that rendered kind of on our little repository homepage here. So it tells you how to participate in the workshop, technologies we're going to be using, and cool stuff like that. Back to the slides. After the code section, we have the issues tab. The issues tab similarly is just all the issues and to-dos and bugs that are associated with this project. So we have several people that have filed bugs at different times. Some of them are bugs and tagged as such. Some of them might be, test issue, bug issue. You could also put to-dos and feature work, right? New features you want to add. Another fun tip for using issues is you can actually group your issues into milestones. So like one thing that I've done in projects in the past is if we were releasing like a beta version, we'd have all of the issues we needed to finish in order to release the beta version. And then we'd have like a separate list of issues we needed to finish when we wanted to release for kind of general availability. So that is some more fun facts about issues. After issues, we get to the pull requests tab, which, as you can see, there are lots of pull requests. So this is my promise to y'all, is that I am going to go through and make sure that every pull request that gets submitted between like now and 2 hours from now, I will make sure it gets in. Sometimes these workshops, go along, lots of people submit, and sometimes things fall through the crack. If you submit today in the next 2 hours a pull request, then I will check it in for you. Unless it's just like really terrible, which it shouldn't be. You're just adding one line of text. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. There is a lot of different terms we use when we're working with Git and GitHub. You kind of need to know some of these terms in order for anything else to make sense. So we're going to do kind of a little bit of an overview on some of that stuff. So we're now going to jump into the GitHub collaboration workflow, which is kind of the steps that you will actually take to use GitHub. And because we're going to be going through this, I'm actually going to full screen this. So hopefully you can read it. Okay, so we have a repository, right? A repository you can think of like a directory that you have your project in, right? You've created these before. When you had a folder that you kept all of your files in for a computer science lab, that was basically your repo. Only it wasn't actually a Git repo, right? But that essentially is what a Git repo is. The first thing that we're going to do in a normal workflow is forking someone else's code. So this is working on an open source project that already exists. Forking is basically making a copy of somebody else's repository. So we have a central repository for this project, and you are going to create a copy of it by doing a fork. Once you have that copy of the repository that exists wherever you want it to exist, in this case, it'll be on GitHub, you will create a branch. A branch is like a parallel version of your copy, but it still exists in your own repository. So you think about it, you have like a big circle that is your repository, and inside that big circle, you have a bunch of individual branches that are smaller. A branch is a great tool to use if you are working on a new feature. So if you have your sort of main branch and you want to kind of try out some experimental feature, then you might create a separate branch that was just for that feature. So say I wanted to add, I had some site and I wanted to add like a paywall feature, right? Where we could like make certain articles on my site, you have to pay for them. That might be a feature that I'd add in another branch. Staging is the act of kind of getting ready your changes to commit them. So staging kind of groups different changes together. You might have several different files that you're making little changes in, and you stage them all at the same time in order to add them all to a single commit. A commit is like a package of changes. It is like a cohesive little chunk of code that you have worked with that kind of makes sense all by itself, right? If you need to make two different changes and the first change breaks things and then the second change makes them work again, then you want both of those changes in the same commits. Once you have a commit on your branch, in your repository, then you can open a pull request to send that commit to somebody else's repository. So in our kind of little mind map here, we have the central repository here. You're making a fork of it over here. You add a little branch, you make your changes, you stage them, and then you make a pull request. After you commit them, you make a pull request to get them included back in the original repository. We will go over this whole concept like 7 different ways. So if it's not totally sunk in yet, don't worry about it. Once you have the pull request open, then I have the ability, or whoever owns the original repo has the ability to merge your branch with your pull request into the main branch. Fun fact, it used to be called the master branch, but now we call it the main branch because the term master has a lot of bad history to it. So main branch. That's it. That is the basic workflow for using GitHub. If you get a software development job, that is oftentimes what your day is going to look like. If you need to make some change to the code base, you fork the original repo, you make a branch for your feature, you make some changes, you stage them, you commit them, and then you open a pull request to get them merged back into the original. With that put out there, let's jump in and actually use GitHub. But before we do that, I will jump back and juggle some windows and see if we have comments. Okay. Hey, y'all can keep up with me. That is excellent. I'm so glad that I'm not talking too fast. Will we be cloning the repo locally today? Yes. So our first, this is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. At first, we will just be working with repos in GitHub. So all of the repos will be online and not locally. The second stage that we'll do will actually be having a copy of the repo on your laptop, which is a little bit more advanced, requires a little bit more finagling. We will cover that. So that is something that we will go over. Oh my goodness. Adam Drummond, thank you. I am glad that you are appreciating the positive energy. Let's see. Would you actually fork it and not be added as a collaborator? Coding Brian. Yeah, this is a good question. So this depends on what your team's setup is like. Inside Google, we use something that's very similar to Git, but not actually Git. And oftentimes we actually are forking the entire repo. So we have everybody has their own copy of the repo and we sync them up. A lot of times, if you're using GitHub, it's more common to, instead of making a fork of the repo on GitHub, you would just clone the repo locally, which is a different way of making a copy. So good question, a little bit ahead of us, but that's kind of my answer. Okay, someone's saying, but you talk a little bit fast. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try to slow down a little bit. But if you don't hear something, ask a question and I will answer it. Alrighty. If you accept our pull request, the main file will change in the code you posted. Yes, that is exactly how it works. If you submit a pull request to our main branch on our MLH project for this, then the code that you write, or the text you write in this case, will become part of our main project. Okay, there's a question about the last question, which was forking it versus being a collaborator on the same repo. This actually will become a little bit clearer once we actually dive in. So I won't answer this question again, but we will see it in action. Yeah, I see some questions about Google's version control system. It's wacky. It's called Piper. There are some other things going on there. If you want to stick around, we could do like a little Q&A at the end. It's not GitHub, so I won't go too deep into it right now. All right. We're going to fork a repo. So we are going to hop over to this code base right here. And from this screen, you can see this button up at the right here. And I'll zoom in a little bit, which is the fork button. When you click on that, you get an incredibly cute animation. At least you used to. Oh no, they got rid of, there used to be this cute animation of an Octocat with a book on a little photocopying machine, but that doesn't show up anymore. Well, you don't get a cute animation, but you do get your very own copy of the repo. So that's something. Once you click that fork button, it is basically it takes you to your own version of that repo, right? You can see here that instead of MLH localhost GitHub, it's wliffert-mlh. That's my account, MLH localhost GitHub. So now I am the owner of this repository, and I can do whatever I want to it. The next thing that we're going to do once we have our own copy, and the forking of it can take longer for some people. It happened pretty fast for me today, but I know that there have been times where forking a repo has taken, a minute or two. So I won't rush ahead too fast. But once you get here and have your own copy, you're going to create your own branch. The name that you give your branch normally should be the name of the feature you're building on that branch. So for example, for me, because I'm going to be adding my hometown, when I go to here, I'm going to say add wliffert hometown. And then I can click this to create that branch. The branch name is the feature that I intend to implement. So if you were, implementing credit card payments, you would say the branch name could be credit card payments. The next step we're going to take here is going to be diving into the actual code and finding the locations.txt file. So just a couple of things to orient. Right now I'm in my repo. You should be in your repo. Your view here should have your GitHub username right here and not mine. So I'm on my repo, you're on your repo. Within my repo, I'm on my own branch. Within this branch, I see all of these files, and I go into locations.txt. Sweet. So this is a list of all of the hometowns that folks have added before. We use, I believe we use the Google Maps API for placing these points. And so if you name, someone instead of a city, they wrote California. So there will just be a dot in the middle of California. If you wanted to just put the country or kind of the province or state you live in, that's fine. But you also can put your city name. So for example, I am from Seattle, Washington. Right now I'm not in Seattle, Washington, which is why I only have one monitor. But I am getting back there very soon, and I will not be juggling windows anymore. I will not add Seattle again, but I will add where I currently am, which is Washington, D.C. The way we're going to do that is by selecting this little pencil icon in the upper right-hand corner. So once you can see the actual text right here, you can edit the file. And it gives you a cute little text editor. Nothing fancy, but it gives you the ability to do what you need to do. Now you can just pick any line and pop in there and add your hometown. So I will say Washington, D.C., USA. And because we're using this API that's pretty robust, you can put it in. It's not like super important that you do, city, province, country. Just put how you would normally write it, which I think for most people is city, province, or state, and then country. But if you just put, city and country, it should get it. So now that we have made this change, remember I was saying you make a change and then you stage it normally? On GitHub, because you don't really get your own sort of current working directory, instead of staging it, we will just immediately create a commit. So this both stages it and commits it. Just to make sure that we are following along with the slides here. So we've added our hometown, and then we're going down to the commit section. You can add a little descriptive message, and then you can commit changes. This is something that I will share as a pro tip, that when you're actually working as a software developer, like one of the biggest things that makes your life easier is having really detailed commit messages, right? So like for this is a simple change. I will just say added W. Liffert's hometown. But if I was doing this at work, I would have probably a link to the original bug. I would have how I tested it. I would have what all the changes meant. I would have what people should be looking for. I would have kind of all these alternatives that I considered for implementing this. There's so much that I can pack into that commit description that I think you should if you're doing this kind of for real. Because that commit description is what everybody else has to go off of when they look at your code. So then we can hop down and click commit changes. Once we do that, we'll return to the main page of our repo, and we will select that pull request button. So if we just click back on code here, we'll see this branch is one commit ahead of master, and we will click pull request. And you don't want to click this green button up top. You want to click this smaller gray one down here just so you can follow along exactly. And here we go. So this is actually a really, really important telling screen. This shows you exactly what the pull request means. This means that we are going from my copy of the repository. So head repository is wlifford.mlh, that's my account, and then this repository. And then the branch is add wlifford hometown. This arrow shows that we're asking to add it back to MLH's copy of this repository on their base master branch. It is called master because this repo was created before we made the change. If you created a new repo now, your main branch would just be called main, but that's a little bit of a detail. So then you're going to make sure that allow edits by maintainers is there, because if your code is messy, it's at least in this case, if what you write is messy, I will make sure it's fixed such that you can check it in. And then you can create that pull request. It just takes a second to load. So now if we're all following along, we should be able to go back to the original repo, and we should see a bunch of pull requests from people who have made pull requests. Now that we're here, back at the MLH repo, if we click here, and so I'm looking at things that are created recently, right? So now, 10 seconds ago, all of these are pull requests that we have made right now. First of all, congrats. I mean, maybe many of you have already made pull requests before, but if you have not, bravo, brava. That's like an impressive big step to take with Git and with GitHub. I am going to dive into some of these, but first I will jump back to StreamYard to see what folks are saying. Let's see. There's a question about putting latitude and longitude. I would put just the just your city's name and the country, city and country, or city, province, country. If you put GPS coordinates, don't. But if you did, I would go and look them up, and then I would find the city name and change it for you. But don't make me do that. Just put the city name. Let's see. Other questions. Please do the Isle of Man, because I will love you forever. Nice. Accept mine so I can see name in contributors. Let's see. mriceflame1. If your username is the same, then it is? Yeah, sure. I'll take a look. Okay. So it looks like, oh, you might not live in a city. Okay, yes, this is fair. I would put the nearest city to you, or town, or township, or town. Or if you wanted to, you could just put if you live in a kind of greater province or state and then a country. So if you live, in the middle of Nebraska, not near a city, you could put Nebraska, USA. That would also work. Let's see. Can you go? Oh, this is a good question. Yes. Can you go back from a commit? That is a thing that you can do. It's actually one of the things that's really nice about commits is that it is very easy to roll back. You can say, go back to this version of the code incredibly easily. Deleting a commit is like, it takes a few steps. You can do it, but normally what you do is you just roll it back. So it still is there, but you're not using it. Let's see. The commit changes button is not active. Let's see. That might be something we have to dive into. It should, if you actually fill out, if you've made a change and you have added a title to your commit, then it should be active for you to pull that back. Okay, so we'll take a look at one such pull request. So this is what we're looking for. This is the kind of external user's username, and then this is the file on it, and then we are sending it back to MLH on the master branch. So they named their branch locations.txt, which is not exactly what I would have named a branch, but it is, it's fine. It's good to say this is the feature I'm implementing, but in this case, because it's a small change, it's less important. Oh gosh, y'all, I need to switch GitHub accounts because I don't have admin privileges. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and y'all can look at my beautiful face for a second, and I will switch accounts so I can actually check these in. And if I had 4 hands right now, I would also be playing Kalimba for you. But I don't, so I shan't. All righty. Back to sharing. Pull requests. Now I've given myself unlimited power, and we are looking for the friend who specifically asked. Oh, so many of you submitted pull requests, which makes me so happy, and also just tells me that I'm going to have so much work to do at the end of this, but That's great. I am thrilled that there are a lot of pull requests, and it looks like most of them are correct. Okay, so this is what I see as someone who has the ability to check it in. And I'll this is a very small change, but I'll walk through what I would do if I was actually engaged in this project. I would, click over and see, okay, what commits are part of this pull request. You can add multiple commits in a pull request. And then I would want to see exactly what the changes are made. So I'd see, okay, adding my city and locations, that makes sense. And then I would see this one line added. I would say, okay, this looks good. One thing I notice is that many people seem to use the format with kind of comma and space delimited. And that seems to be perhaps a little bit more readable. And so I might even put, a comment saying, hey, could you add spaces? I could also jump in here and not edit that. Do I have permissions to edit this? So I could click here and add like a comment saying, hey, could you add spaces? In reality, I don't think it's actually going to matter, and I think it's just fine. And so I am going to actually just jump back here to the conversation because it's the easiest way to do this. I am just going to hit squash and merge. And actually, here's what I'll say. I'm going to approve everyone's, and I will give everyone a little thumbs up when they submit a pull request. And I will squash and merge. So this merge step is me saying, hey, this change looks good. I am going to stick it into the original repository. And just for kicks and giggles, we'll do one more. I will just grab this most recent one 1 minute ago. So we see a lot of similar things. So we see, okay, add George location, that makes sense. And then we see the user here who's submitting it. That's a good branch name. And then they're submitting it to the MLH master branch. Okay, so here we have some conflicts. Oh no, how could one do this? And the answer is because we just checked in some stuff that might be editing the same line, right? And if everyone added to the very end, the very last line, then we'll get a lot of these conflicts. If you added somewhere random in the middle, then it will have the context to know, oh, it's adding it on line 40. But if everyone adds to the end, then I think generally speaking, they'll all kind of collide. So we can go through and we can resolve some conflicts. This is actually a really kind of positive step to look at. So I'm glad that at least some people did this where they all added to the end. This is what resolving a merge conflict looks like. If you can't merge easily, a lot of times Git will just kind of do its secret Git magic and know, okay, this is a change way up here. This is a change down here. That both of these changes can be in the merged file. But if you change the same line, it will give you this kind of readout. So this is what was already checked in on the master branch. And this is what the branch add Jorge location added. Mar del Plata, Argentina. Cool, cool, cool. Because I am totally fine with both of these lines being in here, I am just going to manually delete these little markers, and that will be just fine. So I feel good about that, and then I will mark as resolved. Then I can just click commit merge right here. Boom. And as promised, I'll give you a little thumbs up. Squash and merge. And because I helped fix that little problem there and resolved it, I also get a co-authorship, which is fun. And I will confirm and squash. And I don't want y'all seeing my email, but y'all just did. What am I going to do? Cool. Hopping back. One thing I'll say is now that all of these PRs are out there, find someone else's PR and comment on it. If you wanted to, you could find someone's PR and say, hey, I've never been to this city. It sounds cool. If you wanted an idea of what you could say in a comment. Here, I'm helping you make friends on the internet. You're welcome. So this is a little bit of a review of kind of what I just showed you here. But so this is the view of a pull request. And this is someone who has write access to the main repository. So I had the ability to merge the pull request in. If you're not an owner of the original repository or a collaborator, then you won't have the rights to merge it, but I do. This is something that we went over, that if there are multiple edits in the same line or very close to one another, then you might have a merge conflict. Git is really good about merging a lot of things automatically, but if two people change the same line to different values, Git doesn't know who to believe. And so Git will just say, hey, can you please resolve this? And you go in and you figure out what you really want and you fix it. As we said, conflict resolution is marked by, first you see the new branch, and then a line of equals signs, and then you see the content from the original branch. So you edit it to how you want it, and then you can mark it resolved. So at this point, if everything is, and I actually don't maintain this main project, but if everything is still working on that main project, we should have an auto deployment of the things we just merged in. And after the fact, I will merge in everybody's, and so you'll be able to see it update later. But it should automatically deploy and include these new locations. I'm pretty sure they're doing this on Heroku. If anyone's used Heroku, it's a pretty cool service that allows you to kind of link your deployment cycle to committing to GitHub, which is neat. There are a lot of cool things about Heroku. The first little actual project I made, now I'm walking down memory lane, is this Esperanto English dictionary app called Lutro. Heroku takes a second to boot up when you're first running it in a while. But the thing that I like about it is that I animated a little animation of an otter swimming across the screen, which you're seeing at the screen right now, over there. I don't know. But look at it. Isn't that adorable? Lutro.herokuapp.com. You can search words in Esperanto. Now we will jump back. I digress. Trip down memory lane, finished. Now we will jump back to our actual code. And I'm sure the actual link to it is somewhere on here, right? To where it's deployed. No? Okay. Where's that link to the actual project? Here we go. And I will go back and see, what did we just merge in? If I want to see this. Update locations. What city did we add? Oh, right. It was Mar del Plata, Argentina. Oh, no. Oh, no. Is our map down? Okay. In that case, I will talk to my friends at MLH, and we will get this back up and running. And when it is back up and running, you should see your hometown added. But it's unfortunate it's not running right now. Sorry about that, friends. What can I say? But don't let that get you down. Okay, we are going to jump back to real time. So that was the whole process of using GitHub in the browser. This next section will be diving into using it locally on your computer. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in the browser pretty easily, right? Changing documentation, making small edits or tiny tweaks or fixes, that works in the browser great. But there's a lot of stuff that you're gonna want to do on your own computer. You wanna be able to test your code. You wanna be able to like fiddle with things and run it and see what happens, right? You might wanna use your own IDE or text editor, which you can't do in the browser. So we're gonna jump into that. We'll be reviewing the command line. Okay, so this is the bit that I just said, that once you're working on more complex stuff, if you need specialized tooling or you need your own local coding environment, you're gonna want to set up Git locally. So this is something that's gonna necessitate the use of a command line. If you have never used the command line before, we will touch on it a little bit. This is not like a deep dive into how to use the command line, but you should be able to kind of catch up pretty quick. So the first thing we'll do is check to see, this is opening Terminal or PowerShell or any terminal application that you might use. For me, I'm using Hyper because it has pretty colors. And you can type git -- version. Look at that. I have Git version 2.24.3. It's like the default one that I got with the Apple OS. So I'm fine. If you don't have Git installed, then you'll want to install it. I will drop this link that will help you find whichever operating system you want to use. And I will take the second to, you can, I'll follow along with you on installing, but I will take the second to check some questions. Yes, Adam Drummond, the overall website is down. I really hate to report that, but you are correct. What if it's saying conflicts are too complex to resolve in the editor? Yeah, so most edits you should be able to resolve easily kind of in the GitHub editor. Sometimes there are things that are more complex that are, it doesn't want to kind of highlight these really, really large files with a bunch of different edits. In this case, you want to resolve that on your local machine, which is actually what we're about to get into. Hometown website doesn't work for me. Yeah, it is down. Y'all are all correct. It was hosted. My understanding is it's hosted on Heroku. My friend Kat made it, and I believe that it's supposed to auto deploy, but that sometimes I think it might be some kind of auth thing that it needs to be re-authenticated regularly, and then it will actually keep working. But I will get that. I don't want to derail the workshop and take time to do that now, but I will make sure that it gets up and running so everybody can see their hometowns added. Yes, 2.24.3 gang. That's what I like to see. Let's see. I forgot we need a billing account on GCP now for using the Maps API. Yeah, I don't have any free credits now. There are lots of ways to get free credits. If you go to any MLH hackathon right now, you can get free Google Cloud credits. You also, if you are a student, you can get a student, what's it called? Like a student grant of credits. There are lots of ways to get free credits. I don't have any at my fingertips right now. But yeah, it would be nice if it was free. I don't call all the shots. What can I say? Let's see. Okay, so hopping back to installing Git. Also, just a little call out. Y'all are doing great. Y'all are doing phenomenal. I'm seeing so many pull requests, some very good questions. Everybody seems to be with it, so props to y'all. If you are installing with Mac OS, you will download this installer and you will just use all the default options when going through kind of the default Mac installation process. You can also, there's a note, you can install, if you don't have it already, you can install Git with Homebrew, which is another option, but it's also easy just to download the package installer for Mac. Windows, I am not a Windows boy, so I am not gonna relate deeply to you on this. It's actually it's a to-do. One year I should make my New Year's resolution to make a Windows machine my personal laptop, just so I can get more familiarity. That being said, this is not about me. This is about you. You should be able to open that installer and follow most of the instructions. All the default options will be okay, except the one below. We would recommend that you select whatever text editor you prefer in that step. I think the default is Vim, which I love Vim. I think Vim is great, but I know not everybody likes Vim. And so you might want to make it something a little bit more user-friendly. Okay, now, once you've gone through that installation process, if you're having issues, drop them in the comments. Hopefully we can kind of help one another out if other people are seeing the same issue. Maybe you can help one another troubleshoot, but I will jump in to see if anybody's having issues with this. But once you have finished the installation process, you should be able to jump back to your terminal. This is a little bit small. Let's make that a little bigger. How about that? Fun fact, my terminal font is called Paragon, and it's a font that I designed. And it's on my GitHub, and you can steal it. You should be able to run this again and get an actual version. So that's really fun, right? Right. Okay, you have Git installed. Just to make sure that's actually true, I'm jumping over to I'm going to jump over to the questions, and then the next step will be actually connecting our GitHub account with our local GitHub environment, or with our local Git environment. Let's see. Some people are suggesting other options. Lovely, lovely. Yes, or use Homebrew, brew install Git. Totally a decent option. Get a Windows VM. Notepad++ is good, so I've heard. How to quit Vim, buy a new computer. Yeah, I don't know. I like Vim. I mean, the experience of opening Vim and then not understanding how to get out of it is like a thing that I've experienced more than once because I have forgotten. And yeah, and not fun. So I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. It's a good dig. Let's see. Adjusting path environment has a lot of options. Yeah, so everything should be fine on the default. That one with the text editor is kind of the one rec I would make. Let's see. Yes, VVV. Actually, with the correct commands to quit out of Vim, you are correct. Yes, if you have Linux, then this is the moment where we all bow down to you because you're better than us. And you can just use the Git that's already installed, but only if you have like a fully featured distro, right? If you're using Ubuntu, you're fine. If you're using like Arch Linux, I don't even know, man. I don't know. Yes, the font is Windows compatible. You know what? Now I'm just gonna pull it up. Let's see, GitHub wliffer. Oh. No, Paragon. Yeah, there we go. A clean monospaced font optimized for terminal use. So have at it, friends. I'm out here just like fishing for clout. Go star my GitHub repo, right? Okay. Oh yeah, everybody's dropping their Linux distro in there. That's good. That's good. I'm proud of you. How do you customize your Mac terminal? So I'm actually not using the default Mac terminal app. I'm using an app called Hyper. I think if you just search Hyper Terminal. Yeah, what? No, is that the right one? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, hyper.is. So I'll drop that in there. It's nice. I like it. There are probably a lot of good reasons to use it that I don't actually know. But you know, what are you gonna do? Oh yeah, iTerm is also good. I'm a fan of iTerm. I'm gonna close this because it makes me sad, and I will finally drag myself back to actually leading this workshop. Thank you everyone for sitting with us through the digressions. But I want to give everyone a second to make sure that GitHub is installed. Not GitHub, Git. I want to make sure Git's installed. Great. So hopping back to your logged in GitHub account, in the upper right-hand corner here, you should see your username, right? And I'll be using my other username, wliffert-mlh, but you will see your username right here. That is the one that you are signed in as. That's good. What we're going to do is hop back to our terminal, and we're going to use this command git config --global user.name and then your username. So let's see if I can actually get that command right on the first try. Git config --global user.name, and for me, I'll use wliffert. Yeah, I'll just use wliffert. That's fine. And then the next step you'll take is writing a similar command that will add the email. And this is saying by default, use these things, right? And I will copy these commands over so y'all don't have to meticulously type them out. So I'll do git config --global user.email. Boom. So I will copy this over. I will just say username in all caps. I know, y'all. I'm trying to protect my identity, but y'all have seen it all. So yes, I do it for you. I'm sacrificing my identity for you. And then so that is for the username, and then this is for the email. And then in this command, I'll give a little secret shout out to domain.com. You know what's up. You should use your GitHub private email in commit setup. GitHub private email. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure it is cool. Yeah, I have a very clacky keyboard. Here's the thing. At home, where I have my multiple monitors, I also have a directional mic, and it doesn't pick it up as much, but we're in exile, and so you're getting window juggling and you're getting clacky keyboard noises, but it's a nice keyboard. What can I say? Oh, y'all. Okay, please don't destroy me. Please don't steal my identity. We'll get that off there. But you've already seen it, so what are you gonna do? Now, after you have set those things, you should be able to use the command git config user.name and git config user.email in order to see what is stored there. So for me, git config user.name, give me my username back. I'm not going to type my email again because it's already been on my screen long enough, and that's fine. Okay, so the thing that we just did, we're going a little bit slower. I will pick up the pace a little bit, but the thing we just did is store our GitHub username and email in our local Git, so we won't have to continually type those things in. It will just know who we are. The next big command we're going to use is the git clone command. So kind of similar to how forking gave you a copy of one repo on GitHub, also on GitHub, the clone command gives you a copy of a Git repo anywhere on whatever computer you're on. So it will give you this copy locally. So we'll type git clone and then the name of the repo we want to clone, and it'll make us a copy of it there. The other command we'll be looking at really soon is the git branch command. So just like how we created our branch on GitHub, we will be just creating a branch locally. You'll notice that all of these things you can do on GitHub, there's kind of an analogous way to do them locally. So we have git clone, we have git branch, and then we have git add. So we talked about staging, how staging kind of bundles all your changes up into a little package so you can commit them together. Git add does the staging. So when you do git add readme.md, or the name of your file, that adds it for staging. Once you have staged all the changes you want to stage, so you will git add this file, git add that file, you will then git commit -m and then add your message. So earlier we had that kind of big text field to add our commit message. When you're doing it in the terminal, one easy way is just to say -m, and that gives you just a command line message argument. So this is the -m flag. A pro tip is that if you don't pass the -m tag, it will actually open a text editor for you, and you can write that more involved git message or commit message, which I would actually kind of recommend, but we'll see that a little bit later. So git commit -m. And then finally, git push is the command that you use to reintegrate your code to the kind of the original sort of upstream repository. Once you have kind of pushed it back to your repository on GitHub, you could then make a PR and merge it kind of like we saw before. You can then, of course, also pull changes from your GitHub down to your local copy. So earlier I said we'll go over this whole process of committing, staging, pushing, etc. several times. We talked about it once. We went through it in the web browser. Now we're going to look at a few more representations because it's a little bit of a complex idea and it helps just to go over it again and again. And that's what we're doing here. So this is kind of a visual metaphor for this process of Git. You can think of your working directory, which is where you're actually editing files. It's actually the directory on your computer, kind of like your typewriter or the place that you're actually writing on a page, right? Your staging area might be like a kind of a folder on your desk where you are putting all the things that you think are good. Maybe you're going through that folder later and kind of copy editing and changing things. But once you have that kind of all the staged changes in that file on your desk, once you're happy with them, you might commit them by bundling them and putting them kind of into your drawer or your file cabinet. And that is like committing them to the repository. It's like locked in. That's one visual metaphor. Another representation of the same thing, kind of breaking it up vertically, looks a little bit like this. I like this because it shows you exactly what the commands are. So you have your working directory down here at the bottom. That's what you actually will be editing. You have your staging area on top of that. And the way that you get something from your working directory into your staging area is with the git add command. Once you have all of the stuff staged, in order to get it up to your actual final repository, you use the git commit command. Another look at that. And this is a little bit of a, it's not a simplification, but it's not all there is. There are other commands that do other things. There's rebasing, there's stashing. There are other kind of more advanced Git commands, but 99% of the time, this is your workflow. You change something, you add it to staging, then you commit it to the repository. So without further ado, let's actually get into it. We're all going to create our own new repositories now. So from your GitHub, click new repository and come up with a repository name. Normally I say like test repo, but I actually like this, this recommendation they have, bookish computing machine, because that's what I am, right? And I'll make it public, and that's fine. And then one thing we want to make sure we do, we're going to be editing a README file. And so we want to select initialize this repository with a README. You might add a description like this is a test repo. And then down here, make sure add a README is there. Don't worry about these options. We could talk about them later if we want, but they're less important. And click create repo. If this was like a real project, a lot of times you would add a .gitignore, which we could go into. It allows you to. I know on my Mac will create a lot of these like .dsstore files. If you've seen these .dsstore files, they've probably annoyed you, and you don't want to constantly have to make sure you're not adding them. An additional one is like a PyCache. When you run Python files, a lot of times they'll create cache files, and you don't want to add those sort of cache files to your repository. So gitignore will help you say, I never want to add this kind of file. So once we have created the repository, we'll be redirected to our new homepage. Look at this. Isn't it beautiful? This is your very own repository. This is your home. This is your magnum opus. I could go to your repository and I could see this little web page you have for it. Isn't that cute? I think you should feel a lot of pride and a lot of love for your repo here. Now that we have it, we can look around, but there's not much here. All we have is a README. Now that we have it, we want to click over here to the code, and we want to make sure that we're on HTTPS right here, and we just want to copy this. If you don't trust that little clipboard button, you can just click and Control-C there. Boom. Once you have grabbed that link, now we are ready to run the clone command. So we will hop back into our repo and type git clone and then paste that link. So in real time, hopping back to my terminal, I will type git clone and then just paste that command. Now, there are other links. Make sure that you got the one that says HTTPS at the beginning. And just like that, we're cloning. One thing you can do is, again, if you have used the terminal before, you know this, but if you haven't, you can use the command ls on any kind of like Unix terminal, like we have on the Mac or Linux, and you can see we have a directory in here called Bookish Computing Machine, which was the name of my repository. To get in there, I will use the command change directory, cd, and then type out Bookish Computing Machine, which again is the name of my repository. For you, it will be whatever your repository is. I will hop on there to paste that git clone command, although it's not much of a command, but git clone https github.com/user repo name. And now I type git clong. Is not the correct command. Yes, a lot of folks are helping out. For folks that have Windows, dir is the like list things in your directory. The same command for Windows. cd is the same, and so you can use that command. Which those are basically the two main commands we'll be using. but that's all right. The hardest thing with Git is when you accidentally commit your API keys or password. Yes, never, if you have credentials, if you have API secrets or passwords or anything like that, never commit them to your Git repo, because generally speaking, if you are using a secure service, they will be searching for these keys. And if they see them, they'll like invalidate them because they're not secure if you add them to your repo. Git clong, yeah. Don't type git clong. Okay, so I am now inside my repository here. So I have cloned it up here. Then I've ls and cd'd into it. I'll type ls again so I can see there's one file, my readme, right? Because we initialized with a readme, we can see that there. If we hop down, oh yes, yeah. So we're actually going to run an ls with other commands so we can see more things in it. So we've git cloned. So the basic ls command just shows you everything that is not hidden. Many people alias the command la to show everything. So if I type that, I can see all this information. But for you, because la won't work for you, you can type ls-a. And that will show you not only the unhidden file you have, but you also see this hidden file, which is a .git. And that is our repository right there. That handles all of kind of the internal implementation of Git, and it keeps all the records for us. Now that we have cd'd into hello world or whatever you named your repository, that's perfectly fine. And now we are going to create a new branch. Excuse me. So one thing that you can do, we talked about the git branch command. You can also, if you want to switch to this new branch, you can type git checkout -b and then the name of the branch. The -b just says like create this new branch if it doesn't exist. So for me, I will say git checkout -b update readme. And actually, I would recommend that everybody use this exact same command. Oh, I'll type that there. Yes, you can totally get these slides after. As long as you are checked in, they should be sent to you. So no worries there. Okay, so this is a good question. Yeah, so someone already responded to it. But a lot of times, if you are, say, like deploying this on some kind of cloud service, there are special cloud-based kind of approaches. So I know like Google has like this like secret keeper service. There are also ways that you can kind of upload it to, once you've downloaded the code base, you can manually upload that key. There are ways of getting around it, but the main answer is don't commit it to your repository. All right, let's see. Right, we went over, we never want to commit directly to our master or our main branch because that will likely break things if our changes are not perfect. So we want to develop on a separate branch. We've created this new branch, so now we can make our changes separately. We are going to use the Atom editor. Do I even go over installing Atom? Oh no, we don't. You can use whatever text editor you want. Atom is nice, and for the sake of this, I will use Atom. So I will type Atom, and then this dot just refers to my current working directory, which is the directory of my repo. And that should launch Atom. Atom is nice. I like it. It is incredibly resource intensive. It will just gobble up any resources you give it. I think VS Code is better. I'm just going to say that. I also think Vim is great. So what are you going to do? But Atom, here we are. Atom is good. I like Atom. I have no complaints with Atom. We're not gonna deal with that. Okay, we're gonna X out of these things and click on our README. So remember, this is what was showing up on our kind of main page here. Bookish computing machine. This is a test repo. If you are unfamiliar with Markdown, there are a lot of cool things that, oh, no, Atom. There are a lot of cool things you can do in Markdown. So for example, the single hash mark is your kind of header 1. If you do 2 hashes, you can make that a header 2, and with 3 hashes, it's a header 3, and so on and so forth. I think it goes up to 6. You have that. You can make lists. You could say, this is a list. And what's going to happen is we're writing this like this, but GitHub will render this for us, and it will look super cute, as the header did, which you saw. Let's see, are there any other? All right, we might go over a few other Markdown things, but yeah, you can look up a Markdown reference online. Let's see, GitHub Markdown reference. Yeah, there you go. I'll throw this in there. Okay, so we have a question about coding an atom and then transferring to GitHub. And the key here is that we cloned the repository first, and then we opened up Atom in that repository. So we'll show how to get it back to GitHub later. But the important thing is first we cloned from GitHub, and now we are going to be making a change and uploading it. So make a change to your README. I mentioned, a header 2, you can add a header 2, you can add a list, you can add a link. So if I wanted to link to my GitHub repo, which I wouldn't want to do, but just, just bear with me, then I could go back to Atom and I could say, link back to the repo, and throw that in there. So that is the, here, I'll paste this. This is the syntax for a link. But you saw on that page that I briefly navigated to that there are lots of different cool tricks that you can use. How do you open VS Code on the terminal? That's a good question. I assume there is just some command you can evoke. Normally, and like this is one, I guess I'll show this really quickly. Here, if I open VS Code, and I like VS Code. I don't use it extensively because I don't use it at work. So don't judge me. But I can go to Open. I can go down into Projects, which is right here, and I can just open that file, right? That's where we cloned it, so I can open that. So you don't need to launch from the terminal in order to get it, but here we are. This is all zoomed in and grody, but there you go. So you could use VS Code pretty easily too. So we have made our edits, and then we will go about directing them back to GitHub. So now that we have made some edits and we have saved them, on here we just press Control-S or Command-S to save. You can hop back to our terminal and use the command git status. Git status is, I use it all the time. So GST for me is git status. And it shows you everything you could want to know, kind of a quick view of what's going on with your Git repo. It shows you what branch you're on, and it also shows you the state of edited files. So in red, I can see here that I have modified the README file, and it has not been added to staging. So that's telling me, hey, you changed this. It looks like you want to check it in, but you haven't staged it yet. So because we actually do want to add it, we're going to run the git add command. Like we said earlier, you type git add and then the name of the file that you want to add. There are a lot of other options, like a -a will add all changed files for you. But I will just manually say git add readme.md. Boom. Now, if we run git status again, look at that. It turned green, and it is now staged to be committed. I will drop these commands in the chat. So we have git status is a lovely command, and then git add readme.md. There's another one you're going to want to run. Let's see. It tells me command not found. So I can't send your username out loud because it's gonna involve me cursing, and I think I'm trying not to curse. I think I don't know. I'm not sure what the policy is. But if it's telling you that the command is not found, first of all, I'd ask which command can you not find. If it is Git, then you definitely need to install Git. If it's Atom, you don't have to install Atom. You can install Atom. We're not covering Atom installation in this workshop. You can use any text editor that you'd like. Oh yeah, for VS Code, I just went in, opened up VS Code, and then just clicked open, open new folder, and went in and found it in my file explorer. Yes. Okay, so we added it, and then we git status, and we see that it has now been staged. So we've done the editing it in our current working directory. Then we git added, and so now it's in staging. So that's like kind of the second level. Now we're ready to commit it. And this command will be just git commit, and then we'll do -m, and then pass in the commit message. So I will do that right here. I'll say git commit -m, updated the readme, or I'll just say updated readme.md. And I'll flagpole here that this is not a good commit message, right? If you've made actual changes to like a complex code base, you want to add way more in your git commit message, which you can do a number of ways. In fact, actually, I will drop this command in the chat, and then I'll show you how to add a more in-depth one. Yes, secret ABC, you can change your README however you want. I was just posting some examples, but you can just add any amount of text just to change it, just so you can see the change happen. Have you ever seen Adam Drummond and Atom Text Editor in the same room at the same time? They must be the same person. Illuminati confirmed. Hey, I'm glad that opening the folder worked for you. So fucking good. 9. Atom, hackable text editor. Yes. To add a new file, could you just add it directly in VS Code or another text editor? So a lot of text editors have a lot of well, what did you screenshot? A lot of text editors have additional Git functionality, but for me, the easiest way to use Git is always going to be on the command line. So here is the little commit message, and hopping back, because this is not a good commit message, and I want to show you like how to do it right, so to speak, I'm going to actually remove this. If you don't pass the -m option, it opens up a text editor for you, right? So this is Vim for me, but you could set it to open up a different text editor. And so now I could proceed to add a beefier commit message. So I'll say, I updated my readme.md. I made many changes. They were good. I did not write unit tests. Sue me. There we go. And now I can just write that. And once I write that file, that will get added. But for you, I would recommend using the -m commit message right now. Great. So going back to it, we made our changes, we added them to staging, and then we committed them into our repository, into the little top triangle of our pyramid. The final thing that we have to do is to push them back to our original upstream repository. So what we're going to use is what's called the git push command. So I'll hop back into my terminal and I'll say git push. Now, what it will say is fatal, the current branch update readme has no upstream branch. So by default, it attempts to push to the same branch. And because the update readme branch on the original repository doesn't exist, it's going to give me this little prompt. And so I don't want to go too deep into this, but you can set an upstream branch and repository here, and copying this command and running it is painless. And if we have questions, we can get into it, but we don't need to get too bogged down. So you'll paste that and run it, and it will actually upload your changes to the original repository. One fun fact is that for you, it will probably ask you for your password. Because for me, I've already set up, I've kind of configured my credentials to do that automatically, which is a fun thing you should do because it's really helpful. But if you haven't, it'll ask you for your password. One thing that's interesting is when you cloned it, because it was public, you didn't need to enter your password because reading the directory or reading the repository, anybody can do. But when you want to write back to the repository, that requires authority. All right, we are really on the home stretch here. So yeah, as I said, you will probably have to type in your password. An important note here is that in the terminal, you won't see your password being spelled out. You will have to just know that you're typing, type in your password, have faith, hit enter, and make sure you did it right. Don't like type a few letters and see it's not typing it and try to type it again. It won't show you your password. It'll just, at least on my computer, show you a little key emoji. So once that all runs, you can go back to the repository and you should have your changes visible there. So it actually gives you this this little link to create a new repository or a new pull request, which I would recommend that you do. A note here is that there are two links. The bottom one just takes you to your repository. The top one takes you to this create pull request page. So here is the original commit message that I used. And as you can see, it is right now on the update README branch, and I want to merge it back into the main branch. I'll look over this. It looks fine. I'll fix my one little typo here, and then I will just create pull request. One cool thing is because you created this repository, by default, you own it, which means you have the authority to merge it back into main. Earlier, I was the only one who had this permission, but right now, everybody has it. So you can just click merge pull request. But I'll jump back to the slides to make sure I'm not jumping ahead of myself. Okay, yes, so we have created a pull request. We've looked at it. And because you own the repo, you can merge it in. Yes. So we will hop back here and just merge in pull request. You can click confirm merge. Boom. One pro tip is you actually want to delete a branch once you've merged it in. Otherwise, you will end up with a bunch of different branches that you don't need anymore, just floating around like garbage. So once you've checked in your branch and merged it in, delete it. You can always get it back, so you're not losing anything permanent there. Okay, now we want to make sure that the branch that we have on our own computer matches the branch that you have on GitHub. So we're going to go back to our terminal and write git checkout master. Oh, excuse me. I mentioned this earlier. We've changed from master to main, so we have no branch called master, but we should have a branch called main. Check out main. I'm gonna have to file a little bug on that so we can fix that. Now we're going to run the git pull command. This says get all the new changes from the source repo and pull them down locally. So we'll type git pull, and it actually shows us the changes that we pulled down. We added some lines to our README file. Now, the two things we should be able to do is if we look at our file locally, if we vim readme, we can see our changes. And more excitingly, we can actually jump to our original repo, refresh the page, and hey, look at that! We can see our changes. We have a list. We have a link back to our repo. Hey, it took us back to our repo. Isn't that great? And so we have now kind of done the full life cycle of cloning it, making a change, staging it, committing that change, and then pushing it back to our remote repo. So someone mentioned, hey, would you fork the repo or would you just have access to the repo when you're working? And if you work, kind of as part of a professional team, it will probably look a lot more like this, where you have permissions on this repo and you create a local copy of it with git clone. and then just upload it back to that same brand, or to that same repository. Before I get too ahead of myself, I will, yes, I'm sorry that I cursed earlier. I don't know what I can say. We had git pull, no, we had git checkout map main, then, oh, and then git pull. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So there's a lot of like more advanced Git commentary going on in the comments. I might wade into that in a second, but right now y'all are fine to talk to yourselves there. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah. So something that people have mentioned is that when you commit something, that commit gets a little hex hash, which is right here. So this is showing us kind of the range of commits that we are pulling down. Okay, y'all. So before we get too deep into any kind of Q&A, I want to say congrats. You made it through. You are so close to wrapping this up, and I am really proud of all of the progress that we've made. Quick recap. We talked about how Git is a program that does version control, and you can collaborate with multiple people at the same time. GitHub is a platform, a website that adds some features to Git and provides that web interface. And then command line Git allows you to kind of deal with Git without the web interface on your own computer. What did you learn today? So one thing that we really, really want to do is to have everybody fill out this little quiz here, which will not only give you a sense of did you actually learn something, it will also help us know, did you stay engaged? I think there's a chance to give some feedback as well. And so I will drop this link in here. Oh, there we go. And I will actually go and fill it out alongside you just to show you what it is. And once I do this, I will play you some dulcet kalimba tones. So I will search for GitHub, how to collaborate with GitHub, boom. What school or organization hosted this event? If you're attending that, you must input the following to earn your points. So this is another way to earn points here. So just copy in that. What is the email address you used to sign up for the workshop? I will say example@example.com because I've already shown my email address too many times today. And there are a few other questions. Okay, so here's kind of the little quiz here. I will not actually answer these because I want to give everybody a chance to, actually, I'll answer them and just say A for all of them. But this is like a chance to kind of solidify some learning and to see, hey, do I actually have a basis in Git here? And let's just say I really liked this. I learned something. I expect to use it. I expect to use it in future professional work. I totally enjoyed it because I like Git. Git is actually really fun, and I collaborate. If you commented on someone else's pull request, then you can agree with that. Or if you feel like you collaborated with me, which I would say is true, you can agree as well. Okay, this gets into just some feedback for us, which, let's say that I liked my engagement with MLH, and I will not enter anything here, but I recommend that you fill out this. I'm speeding through so I can play Kalimba for you while you fill it out. Any feedback you give here is like really helpful for us. So the more specific you can be on, did you get stuck somewhere? Did you have a question? Did you get that question answered? Please let us know. I will rush through these as well. Oh, this is me rating me, which feels wrong, but let me know how you liked it. There we go. There we go. Okay, I did not pass, but I'm sure you can. And just to give everyone a second to continue filling it out, I will play some kalimba for you. That's what I got for you. Yeah, it was definitely Mr. Sandman inspired. There is a kalimba in the Avatar love theme, so you are totally right about that. The instrument is the same instrument, and I'm sure that I am incorporating that into it. It was just a little ditty, but that was just something relaxing to hopefully give everyone a second to fill out the quiz. Please fill out the quiz if you haven't already. Fill out the quiz. I'll make a playlist on Spotify of lo-fi kalimba music. Alrighty. I will reiterate one last time. Take the quiz. Oh yeah, someone was asking for the link again, and I will drop it in the chat again because it disappeared really fast. Hey, congrats on everyone for getting 100s. And I'm glad that everybody liked the kalimba music. There is the link one last time. I'm sure I will add it again if people want it. We have a few more minutes. So next steps, again, fill out that quiz. There's a few other things that I would recommend that you try. One is configuring your Git credentials so you don't have to enter your password every time. This is something you can research. It's something that I have done, and it is super helpful to speed up the process. Also, check out this command git stash. Git stash is one of the most slept on Git commands. It is something that I regularly, before I knew this command existed, it's something that I regularly wanted. And then when I learned about the git stash command, it was very, very helpful. It allows you to kind of store changes and hop between branches. If you have checked in for this workshop, which everyone should have because we sent out the check-in link, you should get an email with all the slides that I used in this workshop, those additional practice problems, a few other links for diving deeper, and more opportunities from Major League Hacking, which I would totally recommend that you take us up on. That has been the workshop, friends. I really enjoyed doing it with you. Anytime I get to spend some time with hackers and go over Git is just, time well spent. So thank you so much for hopping into this workshop with me. I will stick around for a little bit and respond to questions. I am happy to respond to Git questions. I think I saw a question earlier about the more about Google's kind of internal version control. It's very similar to Git, but it's not Git. Someone asked, is there an equivalent to a commit in Piper, which is Google's version control system? And there is. I actually probably said the words CL or the acronym CL a few times because that's what I say every day at work. CL stands for change list, but it literally is just a commit. So I will, today I spent my time coding and I bundled up 3 different CLs, right? 3 different change lists, and I sent them all out and I got comments and I made edits based on those comments, and then I finally committed them after everyone thought they were good. Another phrase that I end up using a lot because of Google version control is LGTM. It's not just a Google phrase. LGTM stands for looks good to me. But in order to get your code checked in at Google, you have to have another Googler give you an LGTM. So somebody has to click a little button that says like, yep, this looks good to me. So I use the phrase LGTM a lot as well. Let's see. Other questions? You are very, very welcome. So I will say now that the workshop is formally over. You are welcome to stick around. If not, give yourself a pat on the back. You all did wonderfully. Once I get off, I will commit everyone's, or I will approve everyone's pull requests. So everyone will become a contributor, and that's lovely. Let's see. Taylor the Sloth, you are very, very welcome. The question, as a full-time engineer, how's the work-life balance? Assuming it's solid since you have time to do this in your personal time. Yeah, absolutely. So I can't speak for all software development. I can just, my hair is a mess. I can just speak for, my experience, obviously. I have found the work-life balance for me at Google to be really really good, but definitely variable. There are, I think the first few weeks to few months really when I was starting out, work was a little bit more stressful because, you're like learning a bunch of new things and you have imposter syndrome and like all this stuff. And so you're spending a little bit more time and it's a little bit more stressful. But then after you get over that hump, then it's like, then you can have an amazing work-life balance after that, the first few weeks when you're trying to get up to speed. Beyond that, there have been moments where, there was a big report we were putting out or a new feature I was really trying to get shipped where maybe for a day or two, I would be doing, a little bit longer days or just a little bit more, putting in some more time. But generally speaking, in my experience in software development, it is really, really, the amount of work-life balance you can have is really unique and really awesome. I work with Major League Hacking and get to do these kinds of live streams that are really, really fun. I get to, like build a hydroponic garden in my apartment because I have the time to do that and go travel when we're allowed to travel and all that stuff. So I would say work-life balance in software engineering, it does have its ups and downs, but on the whole, it's like a really, really great part of the job. Let's see. What is the Google internal tool you used? It's called Piper. The actual command that I invoke is called P4. So it's just the fourth version of Piper. But Piper is, oh gosh, I could do a whole deep dive into the history of Piper. The plot twist is like, it's just a Google thing. So you don't really see it outside of Google. So that's that. I think the thing is that GitHub is like really good for 98% of applications. And then if you're Google and you want to have, like all of your code checked into the same ultimate repository, that's like a different kind of problem that Git isn't really set up to handle, and it shouldn't be, right? So that's Piper. Let's see. LGTM is when the senior developer does not want to go through your whole code. Yeah. Yes. Normally, yes. My tech lead, his name is David. He's a wonderful guy. I love talking to him. I learned so much from him. He always looks at the code, and he is always leaving lots of comments, and I grow from it and I improve. But it's a lot. Let's see. Is there a reason Google doesn't release it to open source? That's a good question. So I know formally, internally, Google's philosophy is that they open source everything that they can, as long as it does not, like literally the thing that they say is that as long as it does not hurt people's privacy and security, and there's one other condition, but like basically it just comes down to security. And then if they can open source it, they try to, or at least there's a roadmap to try to open source it. And I think that you might actually be able to see like an open source port of Piper. But I also think it's not super popular outside of Google because most people are not trying to do, like trillions of lines of code in a single repo. How did you grind for the Google interview? Oh, this is a great question, and I have so many answers for it. So I actually I interviewed someone today, and so many tips. One thing I'll say is I often will do additional kind of deep dive like interview prep sessions. And I actually have a link that if you want to just get on the list for me to add you to those, I will drop that in there. Some of like my biggest pieces of advice are, number one, it's a numbers game. So I would say apply to, 10 times the number of places you want offers from, right? If you want 10 offers, then apply to 100 companies, right? Because there just is going to be, I think I applied to like 120 internships, and the vast majority of them did not even respond to my application, right? Like more than half of them just straight up didn't respond. And that sucks, but it's like the way the game is played. The other big thing is, of course, practicing your technical interviewing. Cracking the coding interview is the book, right? There's a free version of it online. There's like a PDF. I think finding friends that you can practice mock interviews with is really important. And I would also recommend looking at sites like HackerRank and LeetCode. Let's see, HackerRank, LeetCode. Oh, LeetCode. Yes. Yeah, those are some of the things that I'd recommend in terms of prepping for an interview. Also fill out that form, and I will help you even more. Let's see. Piper from Silicon Valley. Yes. Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, Piper, our version control system, was named before that show came out, so they copied us, but yes, it is the same word. Yeah, there's a comment, when you have 2 billion lines of code, you need a better tool. And I would say it's not necessarily a better tool, it's just a different tool, right? It prioritizes different things, it makes different trade-offs. It probably is more expensive to run, right? You can use GitHub for free or very cheaply on not great hardware, right? Whereas like if you're gonna use this beefy Piper control system, like you need more resources. Let's see, comments on DSA. The only thing that I can imagine DSA stands for is Democratic Socialists of America. If that is it, then I'm not going to get into politics because it would just be a black hole. But if it stands for something else, tell me what it stands for, and I will comment. Congrats, Mr. Mr. Ice Flame, not Rice Flame, on scoring 100. Adam asked for a little bit of background. Yeah. So again, my name is Will Liffert. You can find me on the internet at WLiffert, which I'll type out. So I am from Nashville, Tennessee. I went to undergrad at the University of Tennessee. I actually majored in this. They have this make your own major program, and you basically put together a packet of, these are the things I want to study. And if you get approved by this board, they'll just let you do it. And so my undergrad study was titled, I think it was The Ethics of Machine Learning and Autonomous Systems. So it was this kind of Frankenstein's monster of philosophy and ethics and economics and data science and machine learning and computer science and a few other things sprinkled in there. So it was a lot of fun, but it was just a lot of different experiences. And I actually, my senior year, I gave a TED Talk. If you Google my name on YouTube, I think one of the big things that comes up is my TED Talk on, if you're a really technical person, the TED Talk is less impressive. If you're a non-technical person, it's more impressive. But mostly what I showed in the talk was that you can, show a neural network a bunch of statements about morality, and it will kind of, in its word embeddings, pick apart different kind of moral meanings. So it was a fun little romp. I interned at Google in undergrad, and I also interned at a few other companies. And I interned actually working on Google Shopping, of all things. And then when I returned full-time to Google, and since then, for the past year and a half, I've been working on Google Cloud, on specifically benchmarking availability competitively. So this looks like this is going to be a little bit of a nerd dive, but we have this project where we spin up virtual machines in every region, in every data center, in every zone, and we have them talk to one another and send little packets. And so then when there are availability issues, so like a data center goes down. I know a few months ago, Azure had this issue where a data center in India went down because of a cooling issue and everything overheated. We can then go and look at our data and see like, oh, like, did we see that? What happened? And that kind of allows us to kind of do this, like the meteorologists of the cloud thing. And we get a lot of cool data that way. So we know, how can we get better? That's what I work at Google right now. I also do a lot of hackathon stuff, obviously with Major League Hacking and with Google. Yeah, that's kind of the short little blurb on me. Other interests involve hydroponics. I have a hydroponic farm in my very small Seattle apartment. I'm a big coffee nerd. Um, let's see. Yeah, I recently climbed a mountain. I climbed Mount Hood. That was fun. That's about what I got. Let's see. What are mm, Oh yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my name. Um, let's see. Oh yes, I also worked at Amazon. I interned there. I actually worked on Amazon Alexa, which was like a super fun project to work on. I really like natural language processing, so that was a blast. Let's see. I saw another big beefy question I wanted to answer, but I lost it. Y'all are asking so many good questions. What are common protocols or conventions to work with GitHub open source projects? Like how to work with many branches and things like that. Okay, this is a really good question. And I don't have a great answer because everybody will work a little bit differently, right? One thing that's really important is if you're going to work with a specific open source project is find out what they want, right? Normally, a lot of open source projects will have somewhere on their page a guide on how to commit or how to make a contribution. And normally this will be like first file an issue and then propose your solution in that issue and then create a branch on your own repo. And they'll kind of give you a step-by-step guide. I will say for me, both in work when I'm doing kind of this GitHub similar thing with Piper and when I'm using GitHub, I usually try to have this kind of management system where you have one issue correlates to a branch, right? So if I have an issue or a bug file that says I need to like update everything to Python 3, say, that's an issue that I have. And then I'll have a single branch that is update everything to Python 3. And I will track all the changes I'm making in that branch in the issue. And then once I'm done, then I will commit that, make my commits and make a pull request that is then tied to that issue, and the issue and the branch are connected. So if I have multiple branches, I should also have multiple issues that I'm working on. This is just one approach, right? There are lots of different ways you can work with it. And the important thing will be, finding what's appropriate for the repository you want to contribute for. That's not a great answer, but it's the truth. Let's see. I didn't understand the Atom part. Can you repeat it and tell me where to put the code link back to the repo? So I won't dive back into Atom, but the key here is that you just needed to make some change. The specific change you made in Atom didn't really matter, and it didn't even have to be Atom. It could be any text editor. So if you use, what was it, like Notepad++ or VS Code, any editor that you can open the file in, you can make that change. And even if you just add another line of text that says "Hello World," that's totally fine, and you can do the other steps. What sector of Google do you work on? Google Cloud, I mentioned that. What did you struggle with most when first collaborating with GitHub with your team as a beginner? Yeah, this is a great question. So I will say that one of the things about Git and GitHub is that when things are going right, they're very, very easy and very, very simple. When things mess up and you have made some mistake, this might be you made 2 commits when you meant to make 1, or you deleted a file and you're now trying to get it back, or you made a mistake and committed a mistake and now you have to undo that commit. That is where things get a little bit messy. And how I got around that was obviously you ask people who know better for help, and you do a lot of reading online, right? You do a lot of Googling. I'll say another very specific thing that was difficult was understanding the distinction between your working directory and branches. So when you check out a branch, Git will take everything in that branch and plop it down into your working directory. So your working directory changes. And if you have other changes in your working directory, then Git will complain and will not let you check out a different branch, because it's what they say is your working directory is dirty. Your working directory is not clean. So that is actually one of the uses of that git stash command. Git stash basically just says, hey, stash all the changes that I've made right now to clean up my working directory. That was a thing that was a big issue for me. So I'm going to type out that command again, git stash. Look up git stash, use it. It's super helpful. But those are some of the things that were hard for me. Let's see. Thank y'all so much for coming. I am. I don't know if this is a question for me if I am in Canada or the U.S. I live in the U.S. I normally live in Seattle. I am right now in DC, which is why I don't have extra monitors. But I'm headed back to Seattle soon. And once the world cools down and we don't have a pandemic going on, I would love to get back up to Vancouver. So I'll be back to Canada soon. Is there a reason Google doesn't release it to open source? If this is, I may have already answered this, but this is a question about Piper. Again, I'd say I think there actually is an open source kind of clone of it. The thing is, most people don't need it, right? Unless you have, trillions of lines of code, Piper is not going to be better for you than GitHub. If you're using it on a medium size or even a large code base, then GitHub works really well, and Git works really well. Let's see, other questions. LinkedIn hunting time, or send an email for the leaked email. No, please don't use my email, y'all. I took the time to come and lead this workshop. Don't repay me by spamming my inbox. Let's see. Yes, I did. Oh yeah, y'all have all gotten on my LinkedIn, which is fine. I'll answer questions on LinkedIn. I'll add you if you try to add me. That's fine. I started as mechanical engineering. In high school, I took a physics class and I thought, hey, I like physics. What do you do with that? And it seemed like the most obvious thing to do mechanical engineering, so I did. And then I realized that most of my free time was spent doing computer science, and so it didn't make sense to do that. And so I switched to computer science, and then later switched to that make your own major, which was the ethics and machine learning. I will totally accept connections on LinkedIn. That's fine. I actually didn't get into hackathons until relatively late in the game. I was a sophomore before I switched to CS, and it wasn't until my junior year that I got invited to help put on my school's hackathon. And so I did that. And after organizing a hackathon, then I thought, oh, hey, this was fun. Maybe I should actually attend one. And so from there, I started attending hackathons, and then eventually got roped into MLH, which was just such an awesome experience. I would recommend, if anybody wants to try coaching with MLH, totally go for it. It's a lovely, lovely experience. Let's see. What else? Oh yeah, there's a question about a specific Google availability issue. I don't want to dive too into it. I don't want to step on my put my foot in my mouth here. So I will defer to Google PR on that. Or actually, we have an open source implementation of our project called PerfKit Benchmarker. I'll pull it up actually. PerfKit Benchmarker. Yes, here we go. So you won't actually see my GitHub user doing that much on here because we kind of work internally and then we just batch up changes to export. But this right here is the project that we open source. So if you want to, you can go run the code that we write to test availability yourself. But yeah, I won't comment on specific availability issues, except for that one in Mumbai for Microsoft because it was funny. Let's see. Oh, Adam works at a coffee shop. Man, okay, so I know that probably you're not I feel a little bit jealous of you because that sounds like a lot of fun. I think coffee is so cool. So I'm jealous of you, if it doesn't really make sense, but that sounds neat. What else we got? Oh my gosh. DSA stands for Data Structures and Algorithms, not for Democratic Socialists of America. I will comment on that. Let's see. Have I ever heard of the Isle of Man, though? Yes, I have heard of the Isle of Man. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I have heard that name. Could you commit all your node modules to Piper? No, we would not allow it. You're banned. You're banned from Piper. My glasses are not VR. They are just for astigmatism. That is all. How is it working for Amazon compared to Google? Oh, I have 1 minute left, and then I think I will get booted off, but I'll keep going until they boot me off, I guess. It was cool. They're definitely different. I think at Amazon, people are there to get crap done, right? And at Google, there's a little bit more like getting philosophical about programming. I like them both a lot. Obviously, like for me, I went back to Google, and that's like where I wanted to be. I mean, just to be frank, like the amenities at Google are really nice. A lot of free food, a lot of free yoga and saunas and gardens and shit. So that's really nice. I knew a lot of cool people at Amazon. Obviously, there's the whole like how the company you work for interacts with the world, which can be messy, and like that's a whole like you need a degree in philosophy just to like try to unpack how you relate to politics and corporations, and that's like I could go on for hours on that, but not here, not right now. Data structures and algorithms. Yeah, I actually really love data structures and algorithms, and I'm sad that I didn't realize that's what the acronym was for. Obviously, they're the basis of most interview questions. All the interview questions that I ask at Google are like based in data structures and algorithms, and I actually really like that. I think data structures and algorithms are fun, and they were really like the thing that ignited my interest in computer science. I think there are a lot of like arcane data structure and algorithms, like there's like the running time of a disjoint set, of adding something to a disjoint set is technically like inverse Ackermann's function, right? There's a lot of like arcane stuff like that I think is really neat. But I think that the basics are just slept on, right? Just like really understanding your hash tables and your trees and your linked lists and stuff. Funny, actually, I never thought I'd actually use linked lists. I used linked lists kind of a lot. Not really in code, but like in my life, right? Like I will have like a linked list of servers, right? Or I will have like a linked list of issues that are all like pointing to one another. Yes, and then I got roped into Major League Hacking, and then I roped in Jack. And so technically I am, and then Jack roped in other people, and so technically I am Jacqueline's MLH parent and several people's MLH grandparent. How to be a coach at MLH. Yeah, there is a, let me throw that link in there. Major League Hacking coaches application. I didn't spell the word application right, but here we go. Oh yeah, I should know this link, mlh.io/coaches. There you go. So that is the link. It's a long application process, but it's not super arduous. I think the interviews are actually really fun. You get to do a lot of role playing, and yeah. Okay, so I am 2 minutes over. They haven't ostensibly they haven't kicked me off yet, but I think they will very soon. Again, you can find me on the internet at wliffert, which I'll type again. You can add me on LinkedIn. I'll respond to questions there. I work through them. And it is now time for me to jump off and start approving pull requests. But before I do, I will just throw out a little bit more kalimba music, and then I will log off as a thank you. All right. Thank you so much for coming to this workshop, friends. It was a blast. I really appreciated you being here. And yeah, happy local hack day. Take care.